Has it gotten to the point where you're scared to use force for fear of losing your job? If you have, this is bad. And it has happened and is happening in many places across the country. Agencies are trying to shy away from using force. Well, that's understandable. We're going to talk about if you don't have to use force. Well, of course you do not want to use it. You can back out of any situation if you can get away and call for backup and go in as a team. But what about those situations where you can't get out? You're cornered. You have no way to get out and your life is being threatened. Excuse my language, but do you stand there with your thumb up your ass and do nothing because you're scared to get fired? And I'll give some examples of situations I'm talking about. I gave an example the other day on one of the correction sites about if an inmate's coming at you with a broomstick and you can get out, you need to get out and call for backup. We can go in together as a team and take this inmate down, okay? And hopefully nobody gets hurt. And we have other options we can use as well. Some jails have tasers that we are allowed to use. We may use the pepper spray, mace, whatever we have at our deposit to use against an inmate trying to commit bodily harm against an officer or a civilian staff member. But then I told the person, but what if you can't get out? What if you're cornered? Well, you're going to reach up, right? Here's your radio. Call for backup. Need help now. And then what? You're going to defend yourself. You have to defend yourself. If he's coming at you with a broomstick, he tends, or she, if it's a female prison, tends to do bodily harm to you. You darn well better defend yourself. And yes, policy and procedure says these are the things we taught you in self-defense. And someone said, well, you must use those. You must use only those. Yes, that's what we teach. That's what we want you to use. But let me ask you, and give me your opinion. If an inmate's about to knock you across the head and possibly kill you, aren't you going to do whatever you need to do to survive? Okay? Because you know that I've done investigations of this nature before, and I never had an officer in this state of Florida get in trouble when I did the investigation and explain that an inmate came at this officer with the intent to harm this officer, possibly kill this officer with this broomstick, and the officer punched the inmate in the face and then kicked the inmate in the stomach and took the inmate down. I never saw anybody get in trouble for that. Some people want to argue, you can't punch, you can't kick. Well, you can only use what they teach you. I understand that, okay? Here in Florida, we learn front punch. We learn the knee to the stomach area. We've done kicks and punches. That's all in our record. Now, if your state doesn't have that, then, you need to ask them, what about if I'm in this situation? And give them examples of the broomstick. Another example, an inmate has a shank. Even worse, a shank. And they're coming at you to kill you. And they say, I'm going to kill you. You can get out. Again, please get out and call as you're leaving for assistance. And we'll go in together and take care of this inmate. But you can't get out. The inmate's got you backed in a corner. Again, I ask what I asked this gentleman on this site. Do we stand there with our thumb up our ass and let the inmate stab us? No. I personally am getting tired. I'll just say that. We have people that are so scared to lose their job that they're going to forfeit their life or forfeit a terrible injury to their body. Since when did our job as a correctional officer, say that we have to stand there and allow an inmate to harm us. If it gets to that point, folks, we're in big trouble. This guy was an officer that was talking to me. You know, first it started out because of the question. Somebody asked about, do you think martial arts is good to have in corrections? Well, I think any kind of self-defense is good to have, my personal opinion, not just for your mind, body, and spirit, but it will help you in a situation like this. And yes, you know, you can't go, I use my kung fu move, blah, 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 on the inmate, but, you know, there are martial arts out there that fit with our program of self-defense. And then I asked this question. If an inmate's about to kill you with a homemade shank, are you just going to use what you need to use to survive? I'll go ahead and tell you my opinion. I'm going to survive. We'll go to court later, but I bet you I'll win. Because in the cases I've done, we never charged the officer when an inmate came at them with a shank. We always charged the inmate here in Florida and took it to the state attorney and charged the inmate for aggravated battery, attempted murder. And I see a lot of folks scared now, scaring some of the younger officers. You must do everything exactly the way well, you know what, folks? An inmate doesn't always attack you the way we learn in self-defense. You know, in self-defense, we hand the rubber knife to the officer and say, come at this other officer like this. Or come at this other officer like this underneath. And we'll show you how to defend yourself against that. Well, you know, there's no guarantee that any inmate's going to come at you any way that we teach our self-defense. I'm not saying to do anything illegal. I'm saying protect yourself, come out alive, and in those type situations, I just can't see any agency or state attorney that would want to fire you because you used a side kick instead of a straight kick. You know? I just had to get that out there. It kind of gets me. I want all officers to go home safe. And I want all investigators, when you investigate these crimes by inmates, not by the officer, when an officer defends herself, open your damn mind up, folks. The inmates in these situations I just described are trying to kill you or harm you badly. We need to make sure our officers are not scared to protect themselves in these situations. I just had to get that out there. It bothers me when people run scared because of their managers, their supervisors. You know, the ones that don't have to use force to protect themselves. The ones up above sitting in their offices with their files and paperwork, they don't have to protect themselves against an inmate attacking them. Okay, let me know what you think. We need to back up our officers in these dangerous, dangerous situations. I'm not talking about when an inmate says, screw you, I'm going to kick your ass, but they made no movement. They just said that. And then you kung fu them and knock them to the ground. Well, now, he was just talking, shooting off at the mouth. We can back out of that and we can write a report, right? And then we can discipline the inmate in whatever way we see fit with administrative discipline. I'm talking about serious incidents where inmates want to hurt you bad. Protect yourself, folks. Don't be scared to use force when you're in a tight situation. Don't you have a family to go home to? Brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers that want to see you at home? And one more time, investigators and management, give these officers a fair shake. Don't scrutinize them for protecting themselves. Let's look at the bad guys and let's punish them. The inmate attacker. Thank you. Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.